I walked into the lobby, followed by Jasper. Beneath my feet were linoleum-style large tiles in a checkered pattern, hunter green, and a muted pale green that could have been mistaken for a light gray. We crossed underneath the archway that separated the front part of the LGBT Center lobby from the back. I looked up the winding staircase. Vincent was coming down the steps, Adriel following him. From behind them, the clamor of voices swelled. An AA meeting had just dismissed. "We were the first out of there, girl," smiled Vincent as he landed before us. "How was the rest of the parade?" "It was a lot," Jasper nodded, laughing. "I'm gonna pee," I said. We went into the hall to the left side of the staircase. When I finished, I returned to the hallway, my attention now caught by something on the wall opposite the all-gender restrooms. It was a partially protruding bust of a man's entire face, hair, and neck. The way the bust emerged slightly from the back of the placard reminded me of Return of the Jedi, when Han Solo is cryo-frozen mid-scream. The primary difference between Han Solo and the man in this dark copper bust was that this man's eyes were full of joy. Typeface letters had been etched into the plaque immediately below the bust. I stepped closer. David Wansonite, 1948 to 1985. Founder, benefactor, friend. Several inches below these words, a quote in much smaller typeface. "When other plants refuse to grow, pansies smile through ice and snow. Delicate flowers can exude the most amazing fortitude. Unknown." "Looks like you, yo." I nearly jumped at Adriel's voice behind me. Vincent had just exited the restroom behind Adriel. "Not all white people look alike, Adriel." Didn't they understand how solemn this was? I looked back at the plaque on the brick wall. Jasper appeared next to me. "He is very handsome. I think I see what Adriel means. The nose and the forehead." Jasper's tone was respectful, thankfully. I kept studying the bust of David Wansonite, trying to imagine his life. I felt an arrow of grief sail from my gut up to my throat. He'd been 36 or 37 when he died. There was no medical acronym listed on the plaque, but I could make an informed guess. I gasped, expelling air with a little cry. My body shook for a few heartbeats. I felt hands on my back. I opened my eyes as Jasper gently squeezed my shoulder. "It is really sad," Vincent said. "It's okay to feel upset." "Now I'm worried," Jasper was saying, "that Darin and I may have just spent too much time talking now about how we died throughout history. And now this. I'm sorry, Darin." Adriel was returning from the restroom, a wad of toilet paper in his big brown hand. I took it, wiping my face and blowing my nose. The four of us walked back through the lobby. We stepped out into the daylight of 13th Street. I still felt heavy as the gloriously warm blanket of early summer caressed me in her embrace. Even though we were on the north edge of the village, a football field from the parade route, there were still pride revelers mingling to our west along this street. In their assorted rainbow paraphernalia, they traipsed across the backdrop of the yellow horizon. 2 hours later, Adriel, Jasper, Vincent, and I emerged up a Times Square subway staircase. The garden party in Chelsea that Vincent took us to had been plenty fancy. And now, as the four of us walked to the Hudson River, Vincent and I took turns a cappella yell singing, "Lucky." We both knew Britney's every line, even Roger Johnson's, from top to bottom. We arrived at the river. Its water reflected the glowing orange embers of the soon-to-be setting sun. We boarded what looked like a miniature cruise ship with about 300 other celebrants. And as night fell, we were sailing past the twinkling lights of Wall Street off the bottom tip of Manhattan. Vincent and I dared each other onto the rooftop deck's dance floor. There, shrouded by dusk and the absence of lights, we flowed and laughed. As night overtook dusk, I ran up to the railing, grabbing it, wildly rolling my head, grinding my hips. Vincent followed me, throwing his weight onto one leg and tracing a circle with his other foot. We moved back onto the dance floor together. Vincent punctuated his twirls with wrist flips and jaw snaps. Adriel joined in, followed by Jasper. I smirked and then screamed in childish wonder as I watched Vincent throw a sassy snarl to the crowd before snatching a piece of air and shimmying his shoulders. Men were watching us. I began to feel silly, not knowing if I was being desired, judged, or both. With my friends by my side, I was able to push that concern to the back of my mind. Half an hour later, our faces were faintly lit by the glow of pride fireworks. The bombastic explosions, reds, oranges, blues, purples, and more erupted into the night sky from behind the Statue of Liberty. At my left side, Vincent squeezed my hand. On the other side of Vincent, I saw Adriel's large brown arm holding his iPhone up to the spectrum of sparks. And on my right side stood Jasper. He lifted himself on tiptoes to tell me something. "See, mister," he practically whispered. "You're not too late after all."